Welcome back to ABC 15 Mornings. There we are.
There we are.
Hey, it's the most wonderful time of the year because taxes are due next week.
Is it the most wonderful time of the year?
Oh, next month. Sorry.
A week. You just freaked people out this morning.
Sorry, not yet.
We brought in Robert Hockensmith here, certified CPA, to talk about all of this because those last-minute folks like myself. How can we make this process easier with the deadline just a month away?
Well, you've got, like I said, you've got a month away, Iris. So what you want to do is make sure you take a look at last year's tax return, because most people use the same expenses year after year.
Right.
Look at last year's tax return, and what you'll do is you'll be able to see what kind of expenses you had last year, because that's the kind of receipts you're going to need for this year.
Okay.
The next thing you want to do is categorize your expenses with envelopes. Take your mortgage statement and put it in an envelope. Take your medical expenses, put it in an envelope. You know, your property taxes will be your mortgage statement. Charitable contributions, put it in an envelope.
Okay.
It's easier to categorize things and add them up at that point.
Perfect.
Then you want to make sure that if you've changed your name, married or divorced, your social security number and your name have got to be the same. That's a big deal, because your tax return will be rejected if it's not the same. So those are some suggestions right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on the spot with a couple questions here. First off, what's your #1 pet peeve when you're handling somebody's taxes?
Oh gosh, my #1 pet peeve is people who come in without calling ahead of time, just dropping in. You know? Hey, you got a minute?
Here's my box of receipts.
Right. A suitcase with receipts.
Right.
Make an appointment. Number 2, I want to ask you, so many people in the Valley may try and use their dry cleaning as a write-off. I'm told that's actually a red flag with the IRS. Is that true?
There are certain expenses that are a red flag based on your occupation. Now, you know, some people can actually take dry cleaning off as a deduction if you have to do cleaning, dry cleaning, or laundry when you're out of town for work. You can actually work out of town overnight, and your laundry is tax deductible.
Oh, good.
So it depends on what occupation you're in.
And, you know, of course, hiring a certified CPA sometimes helps kind of get all of this stuff cleared up. But how do we know which ones are good, which ones are bad? What should we look for in a tax preparer?
Good question, Iris. What you can do is with tax preparers, check their credentials. If an attorney, a CPA, an enrolled agent, you want somebody who's licensed. Think about it. You're dealing with your money, the second most important thing in your life, second to your children, right?
Right.
So you want someone who's licensed. You wouldn't go to a doctor who's not licensed. You wouldn't go to a lawyer who's not licensed. Don't go to an accountant who's not licensed. You can check with the State Board of Accountancy. If there's any disciplinary actions, they will have a list of any problems that person's had in the past. And that's a great way to check their history.
Wow.
What about e-file versus mailing in? What do you recommend?
E-file all the way. First and foremost, if you're a professional preparer like myself, we're required to e-file all the returns that we do, unless certain conditions exist, like adoptions, or if there's identity theft, something like that. E-filing is a lot faster this year than ever before. In fact, e-filing has gone up by almost 80% compared to last year. People's tax refunds are getting in as quickly as 10 days from the time they submit their tax return.
That's what we're seeing there, quicker refund.
Oh,
it's amazing.
We all like that.
Also, the IRS actually tells you when your tax return has been accepted. They will say, send you an email if you give an email address, and they'll say, your tax return was submitted and we just accepted it, which means you know they got it. They can't come back and say it was late.
You're always a wealth of information, my friend. Thank you so very much for coming in. We'll put your contact information on abc15.com. Robert Hockensmith, thank you, my friend, for coming in. You're watching ABC 15 Mornings. We'll be right back.